What is up, guys? I'm here with Overtime Heroics MMA. Joining me is Justin Gibbons and Bruno. How's it going, guys?
Pretty good, Austin.
What's up, Austin? What's up, Justin?
What's up, Bruno?
So we're going to be talking UFC 278 main card here. I guess starting off, we'll start off with Tyson Pedro versus Harry Hunsucker. Justin, you want to start off with this one?
Yeah, it's kind of a fight that crept up on us. Like, I feel like they're just feeding Pedro like just a easy win in this fight. They're trying to get him back to that superstar, uh, you know, place where they thought he was going to be when he first joined the UFC, right? So, I think it's just going to be maybe an easy win for him tonight, on Saturday.
Bruno, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I don't know. I have to check the tweets, but I don't know if Harry Hunsucker did something to the Anzacs or all the people out in New Zealand, Australia. This is his third fight in a row. One against Justin Tafa, Tai Tuivasa, and now Tyson Pedro. So he might have pissed somebody off. I don't really know what happened, but yeah, I'm agreeing with Justin. Kind of feeding him up, sacrificial lamb. Put Tyson Pedro back on the winning streak. He had a great KO his last outing, and I'm thinking he's going to do it again this upcoming weekend.
Yeah, I'm kind of replicating y'all's thoughts in a way. I'm like you, Bruno. It's like, Tai Tuivasa and Tyson Pedro, they're teammates, and now the poor Harry's got to fight them back to back, so he's going through his camp with the guy, and Pedro is going through a camp with the guy, Tai Tuivasa, that's already facing, so he knows what to look out for. I am picking Pedro, but I'm going by decision. I think Harry's going to look a little bit better and faster at light heavyweight. I think he's going to make the weight fine. I've been following his progress. And Harry's got deceptively fast hands too. So I think as long as Tyson doesn't mix it up in the boxing too much and kind of stick to the outside, he's going to pick him apart from range and just cruise to a decision win. That's what I'm going with. So next we got Marcin Tybura versus Alexander Romanov. I'll go ahead and start this one off. I think Romanov is going to knock out Tybura in the first round. I think Tybura is going to be expecting the grappling exchanges so heavily that he's not going to see the follow-up shots coming in. Romanov's probably going to feint a couple times and get him really guessing, and I think that's when he catches Tybura with maybe a high kick or just a left hook or right hook. Justin, you want to go next?
Yeah, with Tybura, he's starting to come on, right? He's had a few canceled fights, and then now he's taken up a huge name. So he could play spoiler. I think on all the fights on the card, I think he might have the chance to be that spoiler win. But I think I want Romanov. I just want to see how far he goes. But like I said, Tybura, I think he could play spoil to this undefeated streak of Romanov.
For me, this one could be a highlight reel one here. Romanov's 16-0, 15 of those wins are by finish. So just the way kind of their trajectories are going, Tybura more the veteran, that's looking like he's just going to Romanov's going to add his name to his resume. I think he's going to do it pretty easily. I don't know about quickly, but he's going to do it pretty easily, and I think he might add a highlight reel to this one.
Justin, you brought up a good point too. I think Tybura is probably the best betting favorite for an underdog on this card. Like most of the card is kind of filled with kind of one-sided affairs. There's some underdogs there that you kind of think about picking, but most of the time you want to stick with the favorites on this card, in my opinion. But you make a good point, Justin. I think Tybura is probably the best dog if you wanted to pick a dog on this main card.
Yeah, up until his Volkov fight, he was supposed to lose to Walt Harris. Greg Hardy was supposed to beat him. Pretty sure Rothwell was supposed to beat him as well. So yeah. I don't know. He's a surprise, right? He always shows up when he needs to, and this is a perfect example. His back's against the wall, underdog. So some of these fighters shine when they're underdogs. So I actually am pretty excited for this one.
Yeah, it's a good heavyweight clash for sure. Going next is a big one, Jose Aldo versus, y'all stick with me here, Merab Dvalishvili. Did I do good?
That was good. All
right. I've been working on it. Who wants to take off on this one?
Yeah, I think it's gonna. This is gonna. I'm surprised this fight isn't a co-main event fight with like the legacy of Aldo, and with like whoever wins potentially could be number one contender. So really surprised that this one didn't make co-main, but I think I'm a huge Aldo fan, so it's hard for me to pick against him. But if he can stay away from the wrestling against Marab, he might have a chance. He looked good with a few takedown defenses in his or Aldo, so he looked good in his last few fights. But like I said, if he can if Jose can stay away from the takedowns, I think he might get a KO.
Yeah, I mean, typically this is Jose's bread and butter opponent, right? A wrestler, wrestle heavy. Back when he was the featherweight champ, Chad Mendez, Frankie Edgar, they had no responses, no answers, to his takedown defense and his boxing, his kickboxing. So, moving down to bantamweight, he's been looking good, but obviously still age is a factor. So I am very curious to this fight. I haven't really picked the winner for this one yet. Kind of gonna play that one by ear, but this one should be very exciting if he can last the first maybe 7 minutes of that cardio that Marab puts on, and he can keep stuffing takedowns and keep landing shots. I mean, Marab does get dropped, he does get hit, so Jose's got a chance in this. I mean, the bantamweights are on fire right now. This is like part of like a little mini Grand Prix, and this is one of the other quarterfinals. So yeah, this is gonna be a great fight. Sleeper. No one's really talking about it, and it should be definitely talked about more. But this is gonna be a good one. This is gonna be a good one, and it could be neck and neck for the whole 15 minutes.
Yeah, I completely agree. This is definitely my most or second most anticipated fight on this card. Looking at the odds right now, it's got it. This is on Tapology. Plus 100 near even for Aldo and minus 120 near even for Dvalishvili. And I think that's perfect odds for this type of fight. I think it was Justin. I think you said something about the Chad Mendez fight, or maybe it was Bruno. I can't remember. But I think that's a good example of how this fight might play out, because my thing is with Dvalishvili is that great wrestler, but he seems to struggle to hold guys down, and we all know that Jose Aldo is strong in there. And I don't know if he's going to be able to keep Aldo down. And I think in those exchanges, when they're scrambling, getting back up to their feet, Aldo's got plenty of chances to catch him with the knee, a la Chad Mendez, elbows, anything, And, Aldo's still a fantastic leg kicker. So I'm picking Aldo in a close decision fight on this one.
I think even with what is it? Sorry, the altitude. Is there altitude when they're going to be fighting in Salt Lake? I'm just worried that might tire Aldo out a little bit.
I'm not sure. I would think so in Utah. I'm not completely sure though.
Let me see.
That's like one thing I was just thinking about. Even with like the San Diego card that just happened, I was wondering about, like, they were sweating, and who knows? Like even Bruno Silva, like when he looked gassed, and I'm like, this guy just went 3 rounds with Pereira, so. I don't know if the venues are starting to take a toll. Maybe that's why they stick to Vegas, because all these guys are used to it.
It's looking like there's a little bit of elevation. I think 1.3 meters or not 1.300 meters, 1,300 meters, 4,200 feet. I think if I'm looking at it correctly, so. It's no Denver or Park City, right, but it's twice Vegas. So
yeah,
put that in perspective.
So hopefully some of these guys that show up, like the fights that we're thinking are going to be close might be altered by, I don't know, the altitude. Because we've seen in the past a lot of those fights that have gone that way, right?
Yeah, Cain Velasquez and Verdun. That's the first one that comes to mind.
No, that's a great point, Justin. I didn't even think about this entire time thinking about it. So that's a great point.
I just been thinking about like the venue, because like it's Salt Lake City or whatever, and I'm like, it's kind of an odd spot for a big title fight like this, right? Like a big rematch, especially for Usman and Edwards. So I don't know. I was just thinking about Aldo and how he looks gassed sometimes, but
And if it's gonna matter in any fight, it's this one. I mean,
Yeah, because
Marab
Rob's going to
puts
put that pace on it.
yeah, he put and
sure.
and he might not even be able to keep it. To double-edged sword it. It could even affect him, and he could gas himself out.
Yeah, he might be heavy
But
wrestling, and then boom, gets clipped in the third. Who knows?
Yeah, so that's definitely something to think about, and I don't think too many people have brought that up, talking about this card in general. So
yeah, it's a weird venue. It's like I don't know. I knew when it was made, everybody's like, well, Leon Edwards at first was saying, "Hey, where's Utah?" Or you know what I mean. So it got me thinking. I'm like, is it that obscure of a place to have fights? And I don't know.
Seems that way, especially for pay-per-views. It seems like they always stick to either New York, right here recently, New York, Jacksonville, any other parts of Florida, California, and then Vegas, it seems like. But yeah, Utah is kind of out of nowhere. Oh yeah, Texas too, for sure.
But especially something this big, right? Like it's finally Usman and Edwards, right? So it's crazy. Just here you go, random spot.
And I hate to be this way, but it feels like too that UFC is kind of giving Usman Edwards like a tough fight to sell, almost like they're making it harder on him. It feels like, to me at least, it feels like the UFC is not really behind this fight, and that's why you don't see a lot of these real tough, close matchups. In my opinion, like if you go throughout the prelims, I mean, it's just like, yep, favorite. I'm picking the favorite. Yep, I'm picking the favorite again. Like, because I mean, just looking at this card, it's like they're just sending these people off to get destroyed or demolished. It's not like they're trying to really hype the card, in my opinion.
Well, maybe they're doing that for a reason, like we've waited so long for this rematch, we've waited so long for Leon Edwards. So if there's like I don't know, maybe it's just better, like good planning on their part to showcase this main event.
Could be. Moving on, we'll go ahead and go to the co-main event. Paulo Costa versus Luke Rockhold. Short and sweet here. Costa's going to knock him out. I'm going to give Luke benefit of the doubt. I think he can maybe survive the first round, but just Luke's had too many injuries, man. Long layoff here. What's it been since his last fight? Was his last fight Jan Blachowicz?
For Luke?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he fought. Yeah, I think that was it.
2019, summer 2019.
Yeah. So
it seems so long ago.
Almost 3 years. 3 years. So, and yeah, it was at 205, first fight at 205, if I'm not mistaken. It's just, Luke's aging too. Luke is, let's see, Rockhold is pushing 38 right now. So it's not a great matchup for him at all. And, what made Luke special was the wrestling that he can mix up with his kickboxing skills. He used to like to throw a lot of strikes from range, and now he's had so many injuries. It's just like he can't wrestle, and Paulo Costa kicks really hard. So like, have fun doing a kickboxing match with Paulo Costa. It's not going to turn out well. So I'm picking Costa second round TKO knockout. Bruno, you want to go next?
Yeah, I'll take it. I hope there's a press conference this week. And I hope those two are there because they are some of the most unintentionally funny MMA fighters in history. So it's just more and more of their interactions would be great. And I would greatly appreciate them and love them. But going into the fights, yeah, I think this is mostly going to be a kickboxing match. And I don't think it's going to end up well for Luke. He usually starts pretty slow. He starts pretty cocky and relaxed. And if Costa's on point, he starts off like a buzzsaw, just goes for it. And those two ingredients don't really mesh well. So it could be a quick night for Luke. He's always in great shape. You never really know. He's always in great shape. He trains. Everyone says he's the most talented guy in the gym. So I would just prefer a competitive competition. I like to see Luke do well just because he is so gifted in the octagon. But I think Paulo's is just gonna do it because due to the inactivity and more it seems like the chin of Luke is kind of going, and Paulo's probably the second most powerful puncher in that division now with Pereira, right? So I think Costa's gonna do it.
I hope Costa shows up. You know, he was that guy that everybody was saying was going to be the next superstar, right? So with his loss to Izzy and then Vittori, I don't know. You just haven't seen that same intensity that we first got. And even then, when he was fighting, who was it? Pretty sure it was like Johnny Hendricks. He was looking pretty gassed in that fight for a guy that was supposed to be this big, you know, hulking killer. I don't know. He just hasn't really got past that the hype. You know, it didn't really, it hasn't really shown itself, I guess. And even with his losses, I guess with Vittori, but he's taken more damage than he should for a guy that can throw bombs. He needs to, like, I don't know, just get more defensive, I guess, when he's striking.
The biggest thing, hopefully, just comes in on weight. I mean, I haven't heard anything goofy so far, but hopefully, it just shows up, comes in on weight, comes in mentally prepared. I think this can honestly be similar to a Yoel Costa that we had again back in 2019. That was just a ridiculous fight. It could be back and forth. Like I said, depends on who shows up for both these men. On paper or looking at their primes, this is a dream fight, and it's not really getting the hype that it should be. But I really hope this one delivers and is a good kind of appetizer for the main event. So I'm definitely just fingers are crossed that this one is just good, regardless of kind of the outcome for sure.
And, you know, talking about this fight makes me think. A couple of days ago, I was seeing some Twitter exchanges, and some guys were talking about Luke Rockhold. And you know, in my opinion, I thought Luke Rockhold at his time, at his peak, he was one of the most skilled fighters I'd ever seen. You know, and I've been watching this sport for, 90-80% of my life. And it's not so much, I saw some people saying he's real chinny now and his chin's gone. Is it that, or is it that Luke doesn't respect people enough anymore? Like, he doesn't respect their power and he just leaves himself open. Like, like y'all said about being cocky, opening fights, and just being real confident and full of himself. And, I thought that was a good point, seeing someone else say that too. What do y'all think about that?
Just, you want to hit this one first?
Yeah, sure. I don't know. He hasn't really been knocked out that bad. You know what I mean? I guess, like, well, Romero, that's a huge one.
Yeah.
But, like, if you look at his record,
Justin Bisping and Jans is pretty bad too.
Bisping is pretty good, but I think Bisping, he just didn't take that camp serious. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, you look at, like, who he's beaten and who he's been knocked out by. He's not really been knocked out a lot. It's just been who he's, like, it's been consistently knocked out by, like, Romero. He's gonna knock anybody out. Right. Bisping, and that was like back-to-back losses. So I don't know. Rockhold just, I don't know. He just needs to put it together. He can't be doing the win-loss game that some of these legend guys are doing, right? And he's fluctuating between weights too. He was middleweight, then he switched to light heavyweight.
Now he's back down.
Yeah, so like that's been shown. Weight cuts help with being knocked out, and so we don't know their camps. We don't know what they go through, but he looks on point. I saw an interview with Luke Rockhold, and he looks to be taking this fight serious. So who knows, like, who's going to show up that night? So I don't know.
I mean, the one thing I can think about, he's not at AK anymore. He's at the Ruka gym, and they've got, 3 young studs there. They got Jalen Turner, Marlon, who just fought last week, and Mackenzie Dern. So I don't know. Hopefully that kind of rejuvenates him to get motivated. It's a little bit more of a closer knit group, I guess. So I'm hoping that helps. But yeah, the one thing, you're right. He might not be chinny, but the knockouts he takes are bad. It's not even the knockouts. He's gotten some bad shots in after he's been out cold. I mean, Bisping hit him a couple of times.
Yeah,
pretty late. Yoel, that's brutal. And then Jan got some extra swings in too.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know if that's because he's kind of cocky and they want to, give it to him. But also when he fought David Branch, I mean, David Branch hit him up against the cage. His hands were down by his waist, and David Branch is pretty much just uppercutting him. But it's David Branch, so he really didn't do anything and was able to mount him shortly thereafter and get the win. But yeah, he's just needs to come correct, because if not, it's just going to be this repeat of previous fights. So it's a mixture of just a lot of things, right, for Luke. So hopefully, like I said, mentally he's good and he comes in ready to go, put on a show, right? So Costa's no joke.
Yeah, it's weird because like it's almost like a novelty act to me. Like, because I remember I used to hate Michael Bisping, and then Bisping kind of had that underdog story, especially starting with the Silva fight. Then I grew to love Bisping. I hated Rockhold, and now I find myself like in my heart, I want Rockhold to show up. It's not even so much I want him to win. I just want him to look like he belongs again, and like he can go toe to toe 3 rounds with some of the best guys in the world. So yeah, I'm like you guys. I'm really hoping Luke does show up and just make a fight out of it.
Yeah, I agree with you, Austin. At the end of the day, what was it? At 194 when he beat Weidman.
Yeah,
Nobody thought he was going to lose the belt for years to come.
years, yeah,
right? Years. They had the rematch, and everyone was pitting him to just dominate it. Nobody else was really coming up in the ranks. Everyone's wanted to see him versus Izzy for the longest of times. It's like a dream matchup if they were both in their prime lined up. It could still happen because Izzy needs new contenders, and a win here honestly it gives him the shot after Pereira because there's really nobody else for him to face. So Luke could easily get a title shot or get very close to one after this win if he does win and is great. So, I wouldn't give it up completely, but yeah, like I said, just a glimpse of what we saw back in the day, just to remind people who he is. Because I think right now he gets like a little bit of a bad rep on being all of kind of his downfalls, and he talks a bunch and then gets knocked out, talks a bunch then gets knocked out. Man, that dude was a fucking killer. Was a dog, man. He was awesome to watch. Truly was was incredible to see. So hopefully, like I said, we can get a little bit of it. Maybe the time off has helped. You never know. Pros and cons to everything. So like I said, just I really, like you guys, hope this fight just delivers.
Well, he stopped drinking too, so that's probably a huge, like he did an interview saying he's cut back on all the drinking and partying lifestyle. And he's like seems to be taking this fight pretty serious, or just fighting in general serious. So it's nice to see that. You need these like former champions from like Strikeforce. They need closure, right? Like look at some of these guys come in champions, and the only one that really did really well was, I want to say, DC. We didn't see really many of them get that send off like they deserve, because Strikeforce had like some good fights and good champions, and Rockhold is one of them. So it's hard to see him like, he comes in the UFC, gets destroyed by Vitor, and then it's like up down game with him, right? It's win loss. So you want to see these older veterans get that send off, and I think he's striving for it. He looks good in camp. He looks good. So like you said, Bruno, it's going to be a good fight. Hopefully they both show up.
Yeah, exactly. They show up, man.
All right, so moving on to the main event, big one here for me personally: Kamaru Usman versus Leon Edwards. Who wants to go first on this one?
Go after it, Justin.
Yeah, I've been waiting for this fight for a long time. It's gonna be it's cool to see how like two different careers meet, in like a different time period, right? Like they first fought. Usman beat him, and he went on and just kept winning. Leon, he won a few, and he just didn't really get the respect that he deserved, right? So it's nice to see the journey has brought these two guys together. So pretty excited for this fight. It's one of the ones that I've most wanted like for a long time. I think I'm gonna go Usman. I was back and forth. I was on the fence, but I think I'm gonna go Usman just because he has been like consistently winning, and he's been proven like a lot of these champions, they adapt, and he can do it. He's been doing it. He fought Colby, adapted twice, won. Gilbert Burns, he's like, they're all killers he's beaten. You can't discredit Masvidal because he can put you to sleep, and he beat him twice. Not only did he beat him the first time, but he proved, hey, I can do it again, knocks him out. So I think I was on the edge with Edwards until he had that like little blip with Bilal. I think that kind of showed there's still holes in Edwards' games, even though he's still winning. Bilal kind of set a blueprint to be like, hey, Leon Edwards, he's winning, but he can still be beat. So I don't know. I'm going with Usman. I've consistently picked him to win, and at Leon Edwards, I've kind of like here and there. So going to go with that. I'll probably lock that in as my staff pick.
Bruno, you want to go ahead?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just Leon is just totally. I would say is one of the bigger disrespected kind of fighters. I mean, yeah, his last loss was to Usman, right? That's the last time he lost, but nobody really talks about how long he's been waiting for the whole thing with Masvidal. He's kind of getting booed. He was getting booed in the UK a few years ago. He had some beef with Darren, and he's kind of just like underappreciated and underrespected. And for me, like he's a great fighter, but I can't really hype on him too much because I personally like don't see him fight that often. So it's hard, at least in recent, when I've been much more closer to the sport. It's been hard to kind of watch him fight and see him and see how good he is, right? I've just rewatched the Diaz fight, honestly, just right before this. And even then, right, he gets clipped at the end. So everyone's like, oh, Leon, this, that, and the other thing. But like, he's great. I think he has the frame and the fight style to compete with Kamaru. I mean, let's be honest, the person who gives him the biggest fight is Colby, right? Yeah, he's won twice, but the last one's disputed. The first one was super close. And he's a leaner guy, right? He's got great cardio. He's got good striking. I mean, if Usman wants to go for the takedowns, I'm sure he can get them. He hasn't really done that too often in recent memory. I know Leon's not going to go for him, especially against Usman, who's got 100%, takedown defense. But if this is a kickboxing match, I mean, Leon, I wouldn't be surprised if he pulls it off. I'm not saying he will, but he's got the game plan and the style and like the frame that we've seen in recent memory to compete, at least compete, right? At least compete with Usman and put on a good show. So I very much looking forward to this just to see Leon in action, right? He's been so kind of sporadic as of late. He's such a good talent. I just get looking forward to seeing him. He deserves this shot, 9-fight win streak, something like that. So I'm glad we're seeing this rematch. And like you said, Justin, I'm glad we're seeing it like in a title fight and not like in a eliminator bout or kind of like a contendership. Because this is a big deal. This is the last time he lost was against Usman. The last time they fought, and then Usman hasn't lost since his debut or whatever, second fight. So these are two of the best welterweights, deservedly two of the best welterweights in the world. And I am looking forward to this, man. I am very much looking forward to this and seeing how kind of this chess match plays out. So it's going to be a good one. I think I'm going to go with Usman via decision, but it could be a 3-2. It could be a split decision. Like, don't be surprised if Leon shows up and puts it to him, at least for a little bit, So I'm very much excited for this one. What you think, Austin?
Yeah, words really can't describe how excited I am for this fight. It's been simmering for so long. Leon's had his win streak. He's just had his breaks in between, and he's kind of been in the background. He's always been there. It's like Usman's going to have to run it back with him. If he keeps winning, eventually he's going to have to run it back with him. And I'm glad they just cut the bull crap out, because there was a lot of talk even after the Diaz fight. It was like, oh, well, Leon needs to go beat Colby or he needs to beat Gilbert. No, let's just get on with it. Let's get on with it. We've already tried all that. We tried pairing him up with Hamzat, fell through. We tried the Bilal fight, accident happened. And, going into this fight, I think, honestly, there's Usman 1, right, at 170. And then 2A and 2B is Colby and Leon. And I think they both present their own challenges to Usman their own way. Colby's got the pressure game. He's able to mix it up with the wrestling. Whereas Leon is a fantastic striker. Honestly, besides Wonder Boy, I think Leon probably is the best striker overall in this division. As far as, everything that striking entails, not just boxing, kickboxing, everything. And Leon, I would not be surprised if Leon stole the first 2 rounds off of Usman. Just the way he likes to fight. He keeps fights kind of close, Leon does. And a lot of people say, he just toys around. But I don't think it's so much that he toys around. I think that's just how he fights. He fights like a point fighter. But the thing is that I'm going to go with Usman just based on the fact because, and I know this sounds silly, but Diaz did rock him. And if Diaz has the power to rock him, then Usman's got the power to put him out completely, lights out cold. And I'm not sure if we're going to see any wrestling in this fight just because Usman's had so many injuries recently with his knees. I think that's why he's really, tuned up his hands and got them looking real crisp, in his last few fights. Because he knows, like, hey, I can't fight at that pace anymore of just constant takedowns, and stringing them together. But in that's where he can find just get Leon thinking. If he just shoots a couple times, gets him down once or twice here and there, that's going to get Leon expecting the shot. And as soon as Leon's hands drop, he can come over with the overhand right, the overhand left, depending on what stance he's in. And but yeah, I'm thinking this fight's going to be real close. I think it's going to replicate something like Colby versus Usman in either fight. I do think Usman finishes him though. I think maybe a third or fourth round TKO for Usman.
I would say that's an interesting point about what the Diaz rocking, because he was in the southpaw stance, hitting with a hook cross. If you switch it up, mirror it, that's how Usman knocked out Masvidal with the left hand right, and Diaz hit him with the right hand left. So could be foreshadowing, but clearly there's like you say, like both y'all said, there are openings, and it could be something that they've been game planning for sure. So yeah, definitely it's possible. A KO or stoppage is definitely possible.
I will add this too, though. If Usman does, I don't know what he's planning in his camp. I don't know if he's planning on a lot of heavy wrestling, because that's what won him the first fight, arguably. Was the ground and pound and the takedowns. And if Usman's planning on that this go around, I think Leon's takedown defense has gotten better since that first fight. So Usman better be prepared for that. He's going to have to string them together. And when he does get Leon to the ground, I think Leon is the better grappler as far as jiu-jitsu is concerned. And, what was it? He got him in a triangle in the first round of their first fight, I think. And it was kind of close, if I'm not mistaken. And he's going to really have to watch out for things like that when he's got Leon on his back. Because Leon does have the tools to definitely finish Usman. Striking and grappling, but more so, I think, grappling.
I think Usman's going to test out the strength of Edwards, because you don't forget the strength of a fighter that you've previously fought. So he might throw out a couple takedowns, see if they're as easy as because they look pretty easy in the first one. You got a few of them here and there, but that was like you said, it was a story of the fight. The first time was the wrestling. So we might see a few takedown attempts, and then just get because like this fight or fighting's like mental too, right? So he might trick Leon, be like, hey, he's gonna wrestle me this whole time because he won that way, and then boom, come over with like a huge shot. But who knows, man? It's a great fight. It's awesome that it's happening Saturday, right? So it's gonna be a good one.
And thing is too that I think when I think of Usman, the reason I'm really backing Usman, a lot of people are talking about his hand surgery. That was a planned hand surgery almost. It was, an injury he had been dealing with for a while. So it wasn't like he just shattered his hand and then was like, oh, crap, I got to get this fixed. He was like, I'm going to get the Colby fight out of the way, get this fixed, and I'm going to come back. So I don't think that's going to be a big problem, because everyone's talking about how he just immediately had the surgery, got out, went to rehab, and just immediately jumped into camp. And Usman's a warrior, man. That dude is a workhorse. And I don't think that's going to be any problem, because when I think of Usman's title reign, he dominated Woodley, follows up in a completely stand-up brawl war with Colby Covington. Looked fantastic. Colby landed more strikes, but Usman really just had the pop to him. And then after that, he follows it up and takes Jorge Masvidal on, what was it, like a week notice. And so he just handles his business there. And then he follows that up and looks fantastic with his hands. Like his hands are just redefined. And I think that's when he had joined Trevor Whitman, right? Was the first Jorge fight?
I believe it was right after Colby. I think he switched. Yeah. I believe so. Yeah.
So then it really showed, I think, when he had a full camp to prepare for Gilbert Burns and didn't take a fighter on short notice, and looked fantastic in the Gilbert Burns fight. And then what's he do? He goes and knocks out Jorge Masvidal, like you pointed to, Justin. Oh, you think I can only decision Masvidal? Watch this. I'll knock him out and beat him at his own game. And, then he follows that up, does what he does again to Colby. His hands just seem to get sharper every time I see him in that octagon. So it's just, it's almost one of those things like, he's not the striker of Anderson Silva, but it's almost one of those things like, what am I going to see Usman do this time? That's just where I'm sticking at.
And what you admitted at, you might not be a fan of the antics or the outfits or whatever he says, but Usman's a dog, man. He is a grinder. Yeah. If you want to talk about mental, I think he is probably one of the most mentally tough fighters in the UFC. Just the willingness to win is off the charts, and you have to respect him for that. So yeah, definitely one of the things, and that's going to take me to the second point, kind of what we talked about earlier. This is a 5-round fight. Will the altitude have any effect? Will that have to do anything with the grappling? And then it might come down to who wants it more. And like we're just talking about Usman, I've never seen anybody want it more than him. So, we don't, who knows what will happen if that is even a factor. But if it comes down to just straight mental warfare, it's a tough day if you're going up against Usman. It's a tough day if you're going up against Usman in that department. So definitely, like you said, I'm so happy this is 5 rounds. This is hopefully getting the press and everything it deserves, because this is going to be a good way to end, hopefully, a great night of fights for sure.
As we're sitting here talking to, more things just keep popping in my head, and I just keep thinking. And I think the real thing that Usman has to look out for in the stand-up with Leon is the high kicks. Because if you watch some of Usman's fights, it seems like he's kind of prone to high kicks, and Leon's fantastic at throwing that left high kick. And so that's just one thing I think Usman definitely needs to look out for when it's in that range. So final thoughts, boys?
I think we're in for a good one, man. It's been brewing for a long time, and it's nice to see that the belt's finally on the line. It's not a contender fight anymore. We're seeing 2 guys that have reached the top, and it's either Usman did enough to stay champion, and he will be that for a long time, or Edwards, needed that 9-fight win streak to get where he is. So I don't know. It's at the end of the day, whoever wins on Saturday, hey, they're the welterweight champion of the world for a reason, and maybe we'll see a rematch too, depending how it goes. So,
if Edwards wins, we're definitely getting a rematch for sure.
Yeah, I'm also thinking this could be. I mean, I know everyone talks about. There's so many great fights, but this could easily be fight of the year, possibly, right? Depending on how it comes out. But these guys, this is gonna be a chess match. Beautiful, violent fight, right? This is just gonna be super great. And like I said, I hope there's a little bit more press conferences, there's a little bit more media to really blow this fight up, because it truly deserves to be at the top of a good card, and in front of a sold out arena. These 2 guys deserved it. They've put in the work, and again, I just cannot wait for Saturday night now. Y'all boys got me hyped.
These talks do it, right? Yeah. These talks get you into it. You think about you're excited for the fight, but then we do something like this, and it's like, okay, now it's Monday, and I'm ready for the I'm ready for the fight tonight.
I gotta get through 4 more days before I can get to it.
Yeah.
But even if there's not media press, guys, I'm speaking to the audience. If you're watching this, buy this fight, because there's a lot of quality fights on the main card. Don't miss out on this, because there's a high chance that this main event is going to be something classic. And with that being said, I'm Austin Mar MMA. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook. Justin, Bruno, y'all want to go?
Yeah, thanks for listening. Whoever tuned in, appreciate it. Enjoy the fight Saturday.
Yeah. Again, thanks for tuning in. Again, you can find me at BrewCrew_ on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube on Bruno D Entertainment. So come check it out. Join the B fam. And yeah, again, thanks for putting this together, boys. It was a great chatting with y'all, and looking forward to the next one for sure.
And if you haven't, guys, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and always go to overtimeheroics.net. Always coming with quality content there for MMA, not just MMA. All sports get covered on the site. We're out. Peace.
Peace.